So we're going to burn through this first lesson pretty quick, simply because I think most of it is a review, and it's just kind of setting up the rest of the chapter. So I'm sure you've all seen polynomials. They look like this, these kind of things. People remember seeing stuff like that. Okay. What do you call the letters? Variables. Thank you. All right. So any letters are called variables. You can have multiple variables or you can have one variable. This would have one variable because it's just x's. Okay. But you can have something like this that has two variables because it has an a and a b. All right. I'm not going to test you on that, just sort of background information. I'm not going to go into the classification of polynomial or why something is or is not a polynomial. You skip to the second page, page 124. Anything that is separated by a plus or minus sign is called a term. So this 4x has one term, so it's called a monomial. Mon means one. If it has this x and this 4, they're separated by a plus or minus sign. That means it has two terms, which is called a binomial. And if you have three terms, you're called a trinomial. And then after that, they just say poly. Do you guys know what poly means? It means many. So once you go past 3, they just say polynomial, which means many terms, essentially. We're not doing that. Not doing that. Okay, degrees. This is important. The degree of a polynomial is the highest exponent in terms, all right? So when you look at t2x to the power of 5, its exponent is 5, therefore the degree is 5. Okay. If I had, we'll do the second one in a bit here. If I had 3x to the 4th plus 2x to the 5th minus 1, what's the degree of that? 5. It's the highest exponent. Okay? Now, those are all one variable, x's. If you have multiple variables, like this, ab cubed c squared, you add the exponents together in that term. So what's the exponent on the a here? 1. So you go 1 plus 3 plus 2, which is 6. So it has a degree of 6. So if we look at these two right here, a, what is the degree of this polynomial? 4, highest exponent. The degree is equal to 4. What about b? What is the degree? So look at each term separately. What are all the exponents combined in this term? On the variables. That would be, you'd add 2 and 3 and you get 5, right? On this term, you'd add the 7 and the 1, you'd get 8. And on this term, it would be 7. So what's the degree? 8. Okay, just as a source of information, basically, if you have a degree of 0, that's just a constant because there is no variable. All right, you could write x to the 0, but nobody would ever do that because anything to the 0 power is 1. So if it's a constant term, they just say it's degree 0. If it has a degree of 1, it's called a linear. I'm not going to test you on any of this. This is what we study in Math 10. We get into graphing. If you have a degree of 2, like this, it's called a quadratic. That is Math 11. And then everything else is Math 12 and calculus. Okay? I'm not going to ask you those names, but cubic is 3rd degree, quartic is 4th degree, and a quintic is 5th degree. Most people would just say it's a 5th degree polynomial. All right? I don't care if you know any of that. Not that important for this class. No, we're not doing algebra tiles. We're not doing that. Addition and subtraction of polynomials. This we were doing. So this is on page 127. Thank you. The bottom of page 127. When you're adding or subtracting polynomials, you can only add or subtract like terms. Like terms mean same variables, same exponents. Okay? So if I'm adding in A, all right, 3A and negative 3A. What's 3A plus negative 3A? 0A, which is 0. Okay? And then you can add the B's. You always take the sign that is in front of the coefficient. So negative 4B plus 3B. What's that? It's negative 4 plus 1. Negative 1B. You don't have to write the negative. You don't have to write the 1. You could just put negative B. That's fine. And then C plus negative 5C. How many C's? Negative 4 C's. And that's what that simplifies to. All right, next one, subtracting. 4x squared. Now this negative goes to everything in here, right? You remember learning that? So you don't have to do this, but I would usually just write it like this. Rewrite it. Then negative becomes negative 2x squared. What's a negative times a negative? So it becomes plus 3x, and negative times negative 1 becomes plus 1. And then I would combine like terms. So has to be the same variable and the same exponent. 4x squared minus 2x squared. The variables don't change. It's like 4 apples minus 2 apples. How many apples do you have? You have 2 apples, right? The x squareds are like apples. So this becomes 2x squared. Negative 9x plus 3x. It's negative 9 plus 3. Negative 6x. And 6 plus 1. That's it. Okay, one more question, then this lesson's over. Or 2 more questions, I guess. Next page, these two. All right, we're going to simplify these, which means combine all your like terms. So 4x and then negative x. What does that become? 3x. Remember, always take the sign in front. Negative 2x squared minus 6x squared. What's that? How many x squareds? Negative 8. squared. And then the 3 and the 5 become positive 8. That is correct. The normal, or I shouldn't say, the convention would be to write it in descending powers of x. So you would usually rewrite this as negative x squared plus 3x plus 8. If you don't, though, it's not wrong. You'll get it right. Okay? But that's how they usually write it, in descending powers of x. All right, B. Look for like terms. Has to be the same variables and the same exponents. So we'll start with this one. A squared B. Is there another A squared B in here? Yeah, the one right at the end. So if I combine those, what do I get? 6A squared B. The variables don't change, only the coefficients. 6A squared B. And then we're going to do the negative AB squared and which one? That one, which gives me negative 8, right? Because it's negative 1 minus 7. And then the 4A cubed B, is there anything to combine it with? No. So you just rewrite it. Okay? All I want you to do 13 and 14, please. Actually, don't worry about 13C, the one with fractions. 13 and 14, but don't do the ones with fractions. 13 and 14, not C for 13. All you gotta do is simplify them, please, by collecting your like terms. Essentially what we just did here. Yeah? The end of the lesson.